people, how are you? My name is Ava Peterson, and I am here today filming the second episode of Talbott Fiber Podcast. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for joining me. If you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back. If you're a new viewer, thanks so much for stopping by and checking us out. I hope that you will return, and if you like what you see today, give us a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to the channel below. Sorry if I keep looking down. I'm trying to be a little more focused this time, and so I actually did show notes. Imagine that. So, first I would like to talk to you a little bit about the direction of the podcast. I alluded to this in the first episode a little bit, but today I kind of want to go a little bit more in depth about what I want to do and what I hope to accomplish. One of the things that I said to you is that I wanted to share my knowledge with you. And the way that I can share my knowledge with you is to do tutorials and tips and tricks. As I think of things, I started a list for myself and I started writing things down that I would like to share. But I'd also like some feedback from you. So, if you go to Ravelry, we have a Talbott Fiber podcast group. So, it's Talbott, Talbott, Talbott Fiber Podcast. So if you go to the groups on Ravelry, you can follow us there. And I have started a new, here goes the brain. Anyway, I started a new topic there so that you can go in and list things that you would like to see on the podcast. It is called Triple T Segment. Triple T stands for Tips, Tricks, and Tutorials. So that's kind of what I want to put in there. So I would like to do it a couple different ways. I would like you to tell me things that you would like to see from me. And also if there's tips, tricks, or tutorials that you would like to share, please put them in there. You can either share them yourself and we'll do like a live tutorial, the two of us together, or an interview type platform. Not really sure, but we can figure out a way for you to come on the show, the podcast with me, and actually show or share your tips, tricks, and tutorials. Or I can make the tips, tricks, and tutorials and share them for you. At any rate, I kind of put all of that in the page on Ravelry, so go take a look at that. So some of the things that I do: I knit, crochet, I tat, both needle tatting and shuttle tatting. I do bobbin lace, I do wire working, I do bead working. Not a lot of bead working anymore. Most of the beads that I work with are actually knitted beadwork type things. I quilt, I sew, I spin, I dye fiber and wool. I do some woodworking. I've also done some hand turning. I've made most of my own bobbins for bobbin lace. They're pretty spendy to buy, so I learned how to make them. And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it a lot. I also make my own spindles for drop spindling, as I showed you last time, and some of my tools. So my woodworking abilities are pretty basic, but I can do a little bit. So I can show you how I made the nitty knotties and some of those different things. Because let's face it, there's some people like me that we buy things, but if we can make them, we'll make them. And so I don't have a problem sharing those things with you. Some people are going to figure it out on their own anyway. Why not make it easy for you? I had to figure it out the hard way. So there you go. Then we're going to have different segments in the show. So I'm going to do what I'm currently working on, what is finished up, what is coming. So that's kind of where we're at. But before I do that, I was watching a new podcast that I absolutely love watching, and it's called Cherry Pie Cottage. And if you have not watched it, you should. They're awesome. I love watching them. They are they're fun. They make me laugh. They make me relax. And it's a husband and wife team, and they both knit. And Jared also likes to collect coins. So when he doesn't have finished objects, he shares some of his other things that he does. And it's a new twist on a knitting podcast, and I just love it. But the other thing that I really love about them is right now they're hosting a make-along. And this make-along is to benefit every Ronald McDonald house everywhere. And what they want from you is they want you to make hats, blankets, whatever. It can be knitted, crocheted, quilted, cooked, and donated. You can go volunteer your time. Anything that will benefit the Ronald McDonald House. So you can do and enter into their group that they have on Ravelry as well. And if you enter every entry that you, or every, excuse me, sorry, I'm tongue-tied today. Anyway, everything that you do, you can put in there for a single entry. So then once a month, I believe is what she said on the podcast, they are going to do drawings for prizes for people that have finished objects. So there's a chatter thread and there's a finished objects thread. Oh my gosh. Anyway, on their group on Ravelry. So go check it out. And she explains it very well in there and what it's for and how you can enter and all of those different things. And so that is something that I feel very passionately about. My granddaughter was born I want to say 7 weeks early. I think it was 7 weeks early. Anyway, when she was born, we almost lost her. And she ended up in a neonatal intensive care unit that was 130 miles from us. And we were fortunate enough and blessed enough to be able to stay at a Ronald McDonald House for almost a month. And the people there were fabulous. They provided us clothing because when my daughter-in-law and son went, they went with what they had. And so there was clothing there. There was food for us to eat. There were people that donated their time that come in and brought us meals several times a week. There was, we came home with, I can't even tell you how many blankets and crocheted afghans and hats and headbands and sweaters for my granddaughter. It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I can't speak highly enough of Ronald McDonald House. It was phenomenal, and we could have never all been there for them if it wasn't for Ronald McDonald House. Sorry, it's pretty special. So I would really encourage you to go watch Cherry Pie Cottage. They're awesome. And go join that make-along and support your local Ronald McDonald House. If you don't know where there is one, go online, do a search, and find the one closest to you. Because I think they all need to be supported. And so, there you go. And you'll have another new fabulous podcast to watch because they're awesome. Absolutely awesome. I love them both. They're great. Anyway, I released my sock pattern 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, shortly after I did my first podcast, and it is now up on Ravelry. You can find it under Talbott Fiber. But for those of you that join the make-along, I have agreed to donate 2 copies every month, and this make-along began on May 1st, and it runs through November 30th. So for every month, I will be giving away 2 copies of that pattern to people that have finished objects in the Cherry Pie Cottage Ronald McDonald House make-along. So there you go. Hop on over there and check it out because it's awesome. Okay, on to other things. Tip of the day. Because I keep hearing over and over again when I'm watching other people's podcasts and in talking to new knitters and people that I see. I got to back up first because this kind of leads into why this came up in the first place. So I was very excited. I went to the doctor last week. All is well. I had a growth on my arm and it kept changing color. And it was changing size, and it just kind of popped up out of nowhere. And so I went in, and the doc took it off. Not a big deal. It got biopsied, and it came back benign, so it was no big deal. Don't really know what it was. So yeah. Anyhow, in my travels, I discovered that Dillon, Montana, which has got 18,000 people, 15,000 people, something like that, pretty small. Has a knit shop. So excited. So I went into the knit shop, and stay tuned because I did talk to the owner the other day, and I actually want to do an interview with her and show you her shop. Had I have known in time, I would have done it when we had the LYS day on the 21st of April, but I didn't know at that point. So anyhow, that I wanted to do that. So anyway, I have gone in there a couple of times now and gotten to know some of the ladies in there, and they are fabulous. And so you will probably hear quite a lot about that in the future. It is called A Good Yarn. So go check it out. It's, go online and do a search and check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful little shop. And she carries a great selection of yarn. She carries brown sheep, which I really like. I've used brown sheep yarn for a long time. She carries, hang on a second. What is this one? Yeah, Plymouth yarns. Another one that I really like. I've used it a lot because the local yarn shop that I used to frequent in the past, that is no more, unfortunately, she closed the shop. I used to use a lot of those yarns, and so a lot of specialty. That was kind of my beginning taste of better yarns beyond Joann's, Michael's, Walmart kind of thing. And so I love a lot of those yarns, and I still use them, especially the Plymouth. I like the Plymouth Encore because it is a 75% acrylic, 25% wool, and it's a great balance for making stuff for people that you maybe don't consider knit worthy because they're not going to take care of it because they don't know how to take care of wool. It can be washed, it can be dried, it's fabulous stuff, and it's still got some wool in it, and it holds up really well. It's beautiful, and they have great colors. It's got a great price point. So there you go. I love independent dyed yarn. That's why I want to dye yarn. But let's face it, it's expensive, and you can't use it for everything, So, because I'm not going to spend that kind of money on just everything. So, yeah. I'm pretty excited about the shop because of all the different things that they have. And she also carries independent dye yarn. Mostly from Montana dyers, which is really awesome. It's really awesome that she is supporting local dyers. And there's only a few of us here in Montana. But she did tell me that she would be more than happy to carry my yarn, so I was pretty excited about that. And also, this yarn shop kind of started because they were a crochet or a quilting group. And when the local yarn shop went up for sale, this sweet woman bought it, and they kind of have just continued the tradition. And not only that, but a lot of them already knitted, and so now they're kind of a knitting group, and the ones that didn't knit have learned how. So it's kind of cool. And so she said that's what we were all about. That's what started us, was supporting each other in the first place. And so that's what we do. That's kind of the whole deal behind the shop, is supporting people in their craft. So there's that. Okay, next up. Okay, so what is finished up? Okay, this is an old one, but not really old. I just finished them not very long ago, within the last couple months. But it was a lot of firsts for me. I've been dyeing yarn and fabric for quite a long time. In fact, I started dyeing fabric before I ever dyed yarn. That's what got me into dyeing in the first place. And I loved it because dyeing is like Christmas. You never know what's going to happen. And especially with fabric, because a lot of what I did, the techniques and stuff that I learned, you like crumpled it up in a ball and put it in the dye, or you folded it strategically and put rubber bands or tied it or whatever and put it in there. And so it was literally like opening a present when you got done. And so it was a lot of fun. So what I want to show you is the very first sock blank that I ever dyed. And I don't have pictures of the blank before I started knitting from it, because that was long before I ever even knew or realized that I was going to be doing this podcast. So I don't have pictures of it before I started knitting from it, but I have what is left over of the blank. Okay, and this is not really showing up very well. There's a deep purple down here. This is kind of a turquoise, and then there's a darker blue up here. Maybe when I actually put it up here, maybe if I get back a little bit, I don't know. You can sort of see the general color variation. The hues are pretty close. They're just different colors. And so the stripes are kind of subtle, and that's kind of what I wanted. My popper was, of course, the green, because I love me some green. So anyway, this is what's left over. So as you can see, my lines aren't necessarily straight, but they're fairly crisp on here, really, considering what you're going to see when you see the sock. So I tried to do the lines not necessarily straight, but even as I did it. And for the most part, especially like right in here, you can see my colors are pretty much, in a lot of places, following the same line of knitting across. And it went up in places because it was not easy to control, I gotta tell you. It was my first time dyeing sock blanks, and it was the first time I'd ever used a squirt bottle, kinda. So it was kind of interesting. And this is for 2 at a time socks. Okay, so that was my second first. I had never done 2 at a time socks before, but at this point, this was after I'd knitted 2 or 3 pairs of socks, I think. 4 or 5, I don't know. But I had only, at this point, finished 1 pair of socks. All the rest of them, I have a single sock, and that was it. So I discovered very quickly that I had single sock syndrome. And that doesn't work for me. Because I don't have a lot of disposable income to be spending, on yarn that's just going to sit there. And if I only finish one of the socks, it's just sitting there. right? So, yeah, not happy about that. So, I wanted to try 2 at a time socks. So, that's what I did. And I thought that was a great opportunity because you either have to unravel them all, and that sounded like a royal pain in the behind, so I wasn't going to do that. Or you have to ravel it as you go. Or you have to wind one ball as you go if you only knit one at a time. So I was like, nah, we're just going to do it. So here is my socks. And as you can see, they match pretty close. Pretty impressed. I have seen some dyers that have made the comment, or some people that have purchased pre-dyed sock lengths, that they faded from one to the other. Mine did not do that. But it's something when I start dyeing them, I will be very mindful of, because I don't want that. And I think the biggest thing is you got to make sure that you have the same saturation on the front as you do the back. So here's the front and here's the back. It's just as dark. You can see the colors a little bit better on the back. I should have thought about that, which is cool. But the color saturation wise, if I can fold this over, saturation wise, this is the front, this is the back. So it's the same. It's just as dark. So I would have to say this is purely a guess, but I would have to say that there just wasn't enough saturation from the front to the back. But I learned from it, and I will be very mindful of that when I dye sock lengths in the future. So this is my socks. And what is neat about them is, as I was telling you on there, the lines were fairly straight, but not all of them. And so when you unwind it and separate the strands to start dyeing, hang on a second, let me find you a spot. Okay, right here. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's kind of blowing it out, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Right here. See the difference in the color? Okay, that's because part of the stitch is in one color and the other part of the stitch is in another. So you get this like patterning effect. And so as you can see on the socks, there is a definite patterning effect. Not that there's any distinct pattern, and it's definitely not repeated, but it's definitely there, and you can see it. So I thought that added kind of a fun aspect to the socks. Anyway, I did these 2 at a time, magic loop, and I bought a pair of Addy needles to do this. And that's a whole different story that we'll go to at some point. I would like to do a comparison of needles and get, when I have a bigger, if I ever get to a point where I have a bigger following, I would like to do it because I'd like to do it when I could have a lot more feedback from all of you. And maybe we could go through some needles and cables together and discuss the pros and the cons of them. For the most part, it depends on what project that I'm doing. But as I said, I don't have a lot of disposable income. And so price point for needles especially is huge for me. Huge. Because I use a ton of needles. In fact, hang on for just a second. This is most of my needles. And what this is a Bass Pro Shops Extreme Fitness Binder. It's for fishing. My fiance loves to give me a bad time about this because he says I ruined a perfectly good fishing bag for my needles. I love it because it's got, as you can see, 2 zipper compartments, okay? So the first zipper compartment is an absolute disaster area, as is probably the second one. But as you can see, you can buy these. Oh, okay, hold it up. You can buy these from Knit Picks. And these are their little discs that they have that have the size of the needle on them. And you can put those on your knitting so you always know what size needle that you're working with. So what I did is I bought the binders, the zipper pouches from Knit Picks. I bought enough of them for all the different sizes of my needles, and they fit in the binder part of this bag. And then the other side just has the plastic bags that came in the binder for your fishing gear. And in that side, I have all of my double point needles and crochet hooks. So if I want to go somewhere on a trip, I can grab this bag and I can knit pretty much anything because I got everything I need in there. All my needles, my sewing gear, my stitch markers. If it's not in use, it's pretty much in that bag for the most part. Kind of sort of keeps me organized, but I couldn't figure out any other way to store my needles. And I also bought, they have a bigger version of this bag, and I bought it as well. It's not a binder bag like this one is. It's just a double-sided bag. It looks the same as this one. So it's kind of a matching set, and it's my knitting. And so I can put several projects in that bag if I'm traveling. I can take, there's 2 different compartments in it, so I can put my projects on one side and my books on the other, or if I'm going to go to a trunk show or something, I can take it with me and put all my purchases in one side and what I'm knitting on the other side, and it has a strap that I can throw over my shoulder. They're just really nice bags. They were a little on the spendy side, but I actually got them from a friend, and he... I don't know why, but he got some kind of special discount. And so he ordered them for me, and I got them at his discount. So, yeah, it was pretty awesome. Anyway, Bass Pro Shops. I know there's one in Texas. Maybe I can get Cherry Pie Cottage to go do... They take us on road trips. Maybe they'll go by a Bass Pro Shop, and we can take a look at the bags that they have there. That would be awesome. Hey, guys, want to do that? Anyhow, just kidding. You don't have to. So, anyhow, yeah. So, there's my tip for the day. Needle bag. Awesome. Love them. And it is full. As you can see, it's expanded about as far as it can get expanded. Mostly, you know, I've tried a lot of different needles, and there's some new ones that I'd like to try. I have a really hard time because it seems to me I like one part of it and I don't like it all. And it doesn't seem to matter which needles they are. A lot of people don't like the shit. Sorry about the language. I just forgot. Okay, this set of needles that I have on this little project here, these are the Chow bamboo needles. I like the needles. They're slick. They're great. I don't like the joints on these ones. I've used these needles. What did I use them on? I can't remember. It's a 24-inch needle. Anyway, I could not find, it's a size 4, and I couldn't find a size 4 wherever I was at, and so I bought this set of Chow Goos. I don't like the cable. It's stiffer than stiff. That's bent about as far as I can get it to go before it twists in my hand and bends. Don't like that. Don't like it at all. This joint is coming apart. So I think it's because these are the rotating ones. And I do love that. See, okay, it's not supposed to. Man, maybe it is. Maybe only one end rotates. I don't know. But I wasn't impressed with the cable. Love the needles. The needles are awesome. They could stand to be a little bit more pointy, but other than that, I like them. I actually am going to carry Chow Goo needles because I was not overly fond of the bamboo ones, but I have tried a few of their other needles. Excuse me, I've got an itchy nose. I have tried a few of their other needles and I really do like them. I like their red lace needles, I believe they are, and I do like those cables. So I probably at some point, I will carry them. It's just a matter of when I have the time and the money to be able to buy a pretty good supply of them and get them up in the shop. So there's that. The mass majority of the needles, though, that I do use are knit picks. And I love them. I love their nickel-plated needles, are a very slick, fast needle. They work great for a lot of projects. And I also have, I think they're Magic. I don't remember. They're wooden needles. I don't remember what they call them because they have a couple different ones. And so I'm not really sure what they are. But here's one size of them. About that, peoples. Not sure where I was at. I'll have to figure it out when I go back and edit. But I reached my limit size on my video, so it shut off on me. Anyway, so these are the needles. And as I was saying, I have only ever had... Let me add it up real quick. I'm thinking I've got 36 sets of needles, at least, of these wooden needles. And of those, I've had 2 come apart. And they replaced them both. They didn't ask me how long I'd owned the needles. Nothing. I mean, the one set was right out of the package. But the other set, I actually just called them and said, hey, this came apart on me. I've had these for about a year. Can you tell me what I can do to salvage my needle? Because I don't want to lose it. I love them. And she asked me for my address, and they sent me a brand new set of tips. And same thing with the cables. I had a couple of cables that came apart, and they replaced them free of charge. No questions asked. So you can't beat the customer service. You just can't. I love the tips on them. They're very pointy, whether it's these size 11s or the teeny tiny ones. I love the points. I did have to learn how to knit with them because they'll wear a hole in your finger if you're not careful, for sure. But, you know, keep the end of your finger off the needle. You know, and that's what I had to do. I just had to learn how to keep my finger off the end of the needle and quit pushing it down with my finger, because that's what was doing it. It wasn't knitting with it. It was pushing the stitches down on my needle, and I don't do it the same way anymore, I don't think, because I don't have sore spots on my fingers from knitting anymore. So there you go. I think you just have to be mindful of that. And another tip that I was going to show you today, hang on a second. Let's try it with this. Okay, so when you are getting ready to knit, and I realize this is backwards, but it's not that big a deal. You put your needle through, you wrap your thread around and bring it through. Before you pull this stitch off the needle, make sure this needle is up far enough that your stitch is on the full width of the needle. Okay, so pull it tight, make sure, well, not tight, but keeping your tension, make sure that that needle is up where it's at the full width, and then slide it off your needle. By doing that, you'll do 2 things. A, I think that's why I quit poking my finger, because that's the one I would push it off of. And I'd end up with a sore on my finger because I would knit it and then I would grab onto the end of the needle and pull it off. And I don't quite do that anymore because I just don't. So keep that in mind. And so that's my second tip of the day. The other reason for that is because it also... that has to do a lot with your tension. My tension was pretty, it really depended. It depended on which needles I was working on, what kind of yarn I was working on. My tension changed all the time. And once I started making sure my stitch was on the widest part of the needle, the full width of the needle, anywhere on here. Make sure you're up over that tip. Once I did that, my gauge and my gauge straightened out. And I don't have that issue anymore. It doesn't even make any difference what I'm knitting with. Doesn't matter what needles they are. I've had people tell me, and I've watched it in videos, and I've read it in books, don't change the needles that you're using. It will change your gauge. Not if you do that. If it changes your gauge, it's not the same size needle. And that is possible because there can be some variation in that. Especially, there is a lot of absolutely beautifully made hand knit needles out there, but they are going to be off. They're not all going to be exact. These are machine done, and they are within thousandths of a tenth of a, yeah, they're accurate. So you do have to some degree be mindful about that. But I don't add to that problem anymore because my gauge is different. So there you go. There's your second tip of the day. Okay, so what am I working on? So I'm working on a couple different things. I did just cast on for a new pair of socks. I have a new sock pattern that I'm working on. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way. But first, let's show you the sweater. And if you're following me on Instagram, you've seen this. But here is the sweater. And as you can see, the stitch marker right here, I put that stitch marker in when I showed it last on Instagram. So I'm pretty excited about this sweater. It is a bottom-up sweater, knit back and forth on circular needles. So, but you're knitting the whole thing, front, back, all at once, bottom up. And I'm pretty excited about it. I like the way it's coming along so far. It's a lot of fun to knit. I started it, I want to say a week ago. So I haven't gotten as far as I would have liked in a week, but at the same time, considering how much time I've had for knitting, I have, because I was pretty monogamous on just this until yesterday. So I will change my stitch marker. So actually I'm just going to add another one above that one. So there we are. So you can kind of gauge the progress next time. And this was the packaging that I was looking at, because this is a Plymouth Yarn Encore color spun worsted weight yarn. And I really do enjoy working with it. I think every yarn has a purpose and has a place. And so it doesn't matter what it is. I have seen some absolutely stunning things made out of nothing but red hair yarn. Because when I was growing up, that's all my great-grandmother used, my grandmother used, and my mother used, and that's what I learned with. So, yeah, it all has its place. So that's my sweater. Hopefully it, I was trying to get it done before it gets too awfully hot so that I can start getting the pattern written up and stuff, and it'll be ready. Hopefully, I'm gonna shoot for the first week or so in August, so it's ready to go on the needle so you can have it for this fall. This is a shawl that I'm working on. I just put this on the needles yesterday. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited about it. We'll see how it works out. But lots of fun so far. And that's about it. That's what I'm working on. Those are my two whips. Okay. So, as you can see, just to tell you how important it is, I do swatch. just because my tension is pretty accurate doesn't mean I always know my gauge. Because being a designer, I don't have a pattern to tell me that stuff, so I have to figure it out. So I swatch. And here's my swatch. And I did both patterns. I did it exactly the way I wanted to knit it, just a smaller version. So there you go. There is my swatch. And from this, I got my gauge in both stitches, and so I could figure out in pattern how much yarn I was going to need to complete this project. So, and maybe at some point we'll go through that. If you would like to hear more about the designing process and what I'm doing, I am just, I've made up patterns before for myself, but I've never actually written them up so much. I have with beadwork. Like I told you before, I've done beadwork and I've had them published. But so this is the first go around for actual knitting. I did do some bead knitted bags. I have 3 different patterns up on Ravelry for those, and I've written those before, and they're pretty detailed. I didn't exactly do them the same way that I've seen a lot of knitting patterns done. I did them the same way that I did my beadwork patterns, and so they're written in that style. And there's no gauge or any of that because they're knitted bags, they're jewelry. So I really didn't. A, I didn't know about that, so I never really thought about that so much, and B, I just didn't feel it was necessary. So the other thing that I've been working on is I love knitting shawls. They're one of my favorite things ever. I love knitting them. And so I wanted to design some shawls, and so that's what I was doing. I was playing around with different shapes, and so I tried the crescent pattern. I tried the bottom up triangle. I really do like this one, and you'll see it because you see a lot of them that have the increases going up the center, and I wanted a different design flow, and so yeah, that's why I tried this one, because I wanted to do something a little bit different. And then this one, which is kind of the shape of what the one I just showed you is going to be. And, excuse me. And so, yeah. So this is the winner for this time. So, yeah, I just went online, found me some videos, and followed the instructions in the videos, and kind of just to get the math down of how to begin them and what to do with them, and now I'm off and running. So yeah, you can do that as well. There's books out there. There's Craftsy is a great resource for that kind of stuff. Craftsy, if you want to get into designing, is a great resource, period. They have videos that teach you how to write patterns, how to say things. Not that I got a lot of that yet. But anyway, yeah, they got a lot of neat things for you to see. So go check that out. They have a free trial. I don't get anything from it. I've used it and I like it. So there you are. I will put a new stitch marker on this as well, so you can tell where I am at. The little green one that's already on there is to mark the front of the pattern. So I'm going to leave that one there, but I'll add a new one to the top so that you can see next time I show you my progress. Okay, progress keeper added. All right, so we did that. Just looking at my notes, make sure I got everything. Yep, did that. Okay. So I think that's pretty much the knitting portion of the show. So if that's what you're here for, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you'll come back and join us again next time. But for those of you that are interested in the rest of my podcast, the personal part, the business part, there you go. Stick around. So we went last weekend. We took a ride to Browns Lake and it was rainy and cold and beautiful. And if you follow me on Instagram, I put pictures up there of our day in the mountains. So it was a lot of fun. And you can also visit my website because there's 2 pictures in my slider on the front page of the website, talbottfiber.com. And Talbott is spelled Talbott, talbottfiber.com. And you can see those pictures. There's a picture of Rock Creek, which is the creek coming out of Browns Lake, and then there's pictures of Browns Lake. And so, yeah, I used them on my website because I thought they were kind of cool, and those will probably change throughout the seasons as we change. They'll just be kind of little snapshots into places that I go and things that you can see in Montana. So that's my plan anyway. Those will change. So if you want to take a look at them, go take a look at them while you got the chance. So since I talked to you last time, the major reason that I have taken so long to do my second podcast is because I lost my day job. And so I have really ramped up getting my business off the ground. And so I've been working pretty hard to try to make that happen. I really would like to get this business off the ground and not have to have another day job. And so I've got a lot of work ahead of me to try to make that happen. And so, unfortunately, it had to take front seat. And so I got a little break in time, and I'm waiting for some other things to happen. My website is up. It's live. The fabric that I showed you the last time on the podcast has been made into bags, and about half of those bags are now listed for sale in my shop. And, excuse me. Yeah, need a drink. Sorry. Sorry about that. Anyway, and I have about 10 braids of hand-dyed fiber. It's, darn it, excuse me. It's fiber that I bought to learn how to spin because I've only been spinning for about a year. And I bought 10 pounds of fiber, I think. Yeah, 10 pounds of fiber. And so I broke the fiber down into, I have a couple of 1-pound bumps that I saved that I actually dyed. And I'm going to use for myself for a sweater. And then I broke the rest of it up in 100-gram bumps. And I dyed quite a few of them. And so, yeah, those are what are for sale. And it is not... it's probably not a base that I will cover or that I will carry in the future, but I might. It's 29 microns, which it's not baby soft. It's like I told you last time. It's not something that I would use next to a baby's skin, but I would use it next to my skin. I have made a cowl out of it, and in fact, hang on a second and I will grab it for you. Sorry about that. Okay, I lied. It wasn't a cowl. It was a hat. But I do wear it. It's not itchy at all. I mean, you can definitely tell it's wool, but it's not old style scratchy wool. So there you go. And for those of you that don't know, and I'm just learning, so I'm not really got a lot of information as far as the micron count goes, but I do know the lower that number is, the softer the fiber is, because I do believe it's the measurement of the thickness of the fiber itself. So, yeah. Anyway, it's 29 microns, so it's not the softest, but it's also not the scratchiest wool I've ever used either. And it's a mixture of wool, so it's not just one kind. It's several kinds. I know it was made in the United States. I bought it from a farm in... I can't remember because I bought it about a year ago. But anyway, I got it from the eastern part of the United States. And it's basically just, it was processed in a plant. It's been, I believe it's combed combed roving. Don't know. Anyway, it's beginner stuff. It's cheap. It's $10 for 100 grams. If you've never spun before and you want to learn how to spin, it's a great beginner fiber. If you do spin and you want a really nice stiff, or kind of not stiff, strong yarn, it's a good strong yarn. It's got a staple length of about 2.5, 3 inches. So it's not bad. It's not bad. And it sticks together really well, so it doesn't tend to draft apart really easy. And that's why I bought it specifically, because I wanted something. I've never had that problem with my drop spindle. The only thing that I have had trouble with on my drop spindle that I've done thus far was mohair. Mohair is very greasy. I don't care how many times you process it. It's greasy and it's slippery. And I didn't have a lot of trouble with it, but it's the only one that really drafted apart on me when I was working with it, with my drop spindle. But when I actually got my spinning wheel, that was a different story. So I did buy it for that purpose, to use it on my spinning wheel. But I have way more than I need. So I am trying to get my business off the ground, and in doing so, I need to get rid of a lot of these different things, and I would like some different fibers to play with. I've played with that one a lot. It's time for it to go to a new home so somebody else can play with it. So, there you have it. There's fiber and bags up in the shop, and I will be doing another update. I'm going to try to get some done today and tomorrow. I leave Saturday. I'm going to go babysit my grandchildren for a week while my daughter-in-law is gone and my son works. So I'm not going to take my sewing with me. I'm going to try to get as much of it done before I go as I can, and then hopefully I can get those listed while I'm there. And so that is shop news. What's coming in the shop is needle cozies. I'm still playing with it a little bit. Because I've made me some, but they were just for me. So I wanted to play with the pattern a little bit and the design a little bit and make it a little bit better for you. So they're going to be big enough for these type needles, as well as the 6-inch double pointed needles. And then maybe a little bit later down the road we'll do some bigger ones, because like Knit Picks, like for hats and different things like that, Knit Picks has a 8-inch needle, which I'm sure a lot of other places do too. They have 7s, I believe, or 8s, and these are not going to fit those. So, but they will fit any of the circular needles, and you could put your circular needles in a needle cozy. Tip number 3 for the day: you can put your needles in a needle cozy like this with your project hanging down, and that will protect your needles, and it will keep things from sliding off, and you can put it down in your bag and you don't have to worry about it. Needle cozies are awesome, and they're not just for socks and double pointed needles. They work great for circular needles as well, if you didn't know that. So there you go. All right, I think that is pretty much all I have to talk to you about today. Really enjoyed having you here. Really excited that you've allowed me to come into your home and spend a little bit of time with you. And thank you for taking time out of your day and spending a little bit of time with me. And if you like what you saw on here, please hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Drop me a note in the down bar and let me know what you like. And if there's things that you'd like to see different or like to see changed, and it's constructive criticism, I'm more than willing to listen to that. So, thanks again, and have a fun fiber-filled day. Bye.